And we're coming at you live. Damn it, Vinny. we're coming at you live with another one. All you Bi-Conics wrestling podcast fanatics out there. We are back from a somewhat long/short hiatus. Listen, summer was a thing.
It was about 4-month hiatus for this one.
Listen, we've been living our lives. We've been getting this YouTube channel.
We've been reviewing. We've been busy. We haven't had time to take a day off to just talk to each other.
So I've been hyping up that we are finally back with the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast. It is like the TV reviews and pay-per-view reviews we do, but it is more chaotic and unhinged. So this is the unfiltered. We're literally busted open radio, but more chaotic. I am your host, Mikey, and I am joined by some of my favorite peoples at the moment. I've missed seeing all your lovely faces. Two of you I've missed a lot, and then we have somebody new who we'll get to in a little bit. But John, it's nice to see you again.
Yeah.
It's been a bit. It's been a hot minute.
It's been a while. For those of you following the channel and all, I guess 64 of you now, which is a small miracle, and all the podcast folks. Mikey and I have been reviewing Dynamite off and on, along with JBL, and every now and then Mikey was stepping in for Minnie to do some SmackDown stuff. So we've been reviewing anything and everything we can. It's been a weird summer. It's been a lot of plot lines. And then I'm fresh off the COVID, so I had 10 days of, oh God, who am I? I'm a zombie. So I'm just now catching up on some of my Bi-Conics duties as best I can. But yeah, it's nice to just sort of talk again. It's been a minute.
Seriously.
And then there's Minnie.
I'm the new guy.
Oh, Minnie's the new guy now?
Oh, absolutely not. That is...
I took a little break because we've been doing a lot, and I was like, it's football season, and I'm a huge football fan, so I was gonna start doing that. But I've been kind of keep up, even though I said I was taking a break. I still randomly popped into 2 reviews for All In and All Out, so I randomly popped in. I was like, I didn't watch these, but let's go.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Yeah. But I do Raw and SmackDown, and I do WWE stuff because most of the people on our little group doesn't like WWE. So I said I'll bite the bullet, watch. So that's what I've been doing.
I don't hate it. It's just SmackDown's been really disappointing for 6 months. It's sort of every few weeks there's a good one.
Everything's been disappointing since Vince came back. So.
Well, then we have time to talk about it today. We could talk about the conspiracy theories of Vince McMahon because Reddit is a rabbit hole anyway. But there's a lot of people talking about what the hell is going on with Vince and this grand jury and this back surgery and Pritchard and what's his name with the buck teeth who also makes decisions. I can't think of his name.
I'm hoping this part might get edited out, so I might get attacked by Vince McMahon's Goonies because he's a billionaire. I just texted a buddy of mine the other day, and he said he sent me the thing about the merger that finally happened. They finally merged with the UFC parent company.
Sure, yeah.
And I was like, and how Vince is staying away from creative. That's what I said, and he was like, I don't know. He probably finds a way to get back in. I said, Vince just needs to die already.
You can't invoke death on Vince; he'll hear you.
But at the same time, though, I mean,
he's like 94,000 years old.
94,000 years. That's pretty. That's.
Vince
I feel like Vince made some sort of pact, and he just refuses to go away.
Yeah, he made the pact with God and said, "Hey, make Hulk Hogan racist now. I'll be."
You made that pact 94,000 years ago.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan became racist, and he became immortal.
See, we could save it for another episode because Hulk Hogan is still on my eternal.
He should be forever.
He is for everything, but as you all might see, so John and Minnie, I love you guys so much. But we are joined by a newbie, a freshman, if you will, who is making his debut on this crazy journey. So
Andrew's a freshman. He's the oldest of all of us. Andrew's a freshman.
Well, I think Will has all of us beat.
Will's up there, but I don't want to.
He is a child of 60s and 70s wrestling.
I'm the youngest. Haha.
Shut up.
Before my time.
Shut up. But Andrew, welcome to the podcast. It's so nice to have you, my friend.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So before we get into what we're going to be talking about today, Andrew, why don't you tell a little bit about your history with professional wrestling and just whatever else you feel like sharing?
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people, I started watching wrestling when I was a little kid. I was a child of the 80s, so I was lucky enough that my first memorable experience watching professional wrestling was actually watching Hogan slam Andre, because I got invited over to some people's house for a party, and we were little kids, and we were watching wrestling, and that got me hooked. And I grew up watching. The heydays of WWF, and got to experience some of those crazy characters from back then, and then got to kind of come up through the teen years watching like the Attitude Era, and getting to watch the Monday Night Wars and all that kind of stuff. So those were the years that I really watched and loved professional wrestling. I kind of got out of it a little bit in the mid 2000s, and kind of around the Nexus, John Cena, all those kind of eras of WWE. And then I recently got back into it with kind of the birth of AEW, getting to watch a lot more international wrestling, indies wrestling. The internet has been wonderful for being able to find out about people who aren't just being sold to you by WWE. So it's been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You're gonna fit right in with the rest of us, I promise.
What's funny is because so Andrew and I have a similar time gap in our WWE knowledge, because around the same times we kind of were doing other things and weren't wrestling in that 10-year gap. But all I really heard we missed was like a chunk of John Cena, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton. That's and some of the birth of women's wrestling stuff. And I don't mean to talk shit, and people have given us comments on this and whatever else. But when I ask genuinely, it's like, well, what did I miss? Like, well, I mean, nothing you can't catch up on. Like, nothing load bearing was really missed in that era.
Yeah, I've got to say, I love the state of what wrestling is right now.
Yeah.
All the different companies that you're able to follow along with, because it's like the Monday Night Wars on steroids, but less head to head trying to take each other out, at least for most of them. And instead, it's crazy how much collaboration there is between different companies now, between AAA, New Japan, AEW, Ring of Honor. A lot of the smaller companies like MLW and some of those things too, where people are going out and doing shows there and showing up in all these other places. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And I love and I think Mikey was talking about this, the AEW contract where they can kind of do indie shows and do their one-offs and do their own things like that. So it's more of a, they could go to Mexico and do a thing, Japan and do a thing. Adam Cole just did something in Carolina, right? Wasn't that Adam Cole? Adam Cole just went to his buddy's match and showed up at some other thing. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he had a match with Chris Danger, the YouTuber, which was interesting to see.
I don't know, like all these one-off things.
That match happened. I missed it.
That's a thing. Yeah, go to the YouTubes, man.
I think it happened. If not, it's happening very soon.
I think it's happening soon. I just think it's really interesting that now, like Andrew was saying, it's such a different community than it was when I was watching at its peak in 20 years ago and 80s and whatnot. It's, of course, that overpriced, damn you capitalism, we're selling you t-shirts, wrestlers are still there, sure, and we'll talk about that, but it's so accessible now. It's everywhere. It's almost cooler to go to indie shows now, right? Like at the time it used to be like, oh, you're going to indies, but now it's like, no, oh yes, of course. It's
it's now ew. You went to WWE.
Yeah, it's not ew. You're in a warehouse watching your friends hit each other with bulbs. It's like, oh, you're in a warehouse. That's great.
Hey, you know what? I have my problems with WWE, but I will tell you, being at WrestleMania this year was still a highlight for me.
Hey, day one, perfect day to go. I'm so glad you were there.
Like an hour and a half car ride with the three of us that went together. We're just like, why?
It was the first half that car ride was silent. The next half was us going, what the hell was that?
That's so funny.
And then like politician Maxine Waters, the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania, when we watched it at my house.
The best part about that was the pizza.
Yes, I want my time back. I'm here to reclaim my time. That is the worst episode of wrestling television that I have witnessed this year. Was that Monday Night Raw after Mania? Because that was, excuse my French, that was a shit show.
No, no, there was an AEW Dynamite that was quite literally 100 minutes of promos.
Instead of Fighter Fest, it was Promo
At
Fest.
Promo Fest, and we had Promo Fest 1 and 2, and then there was a SmackDown where I think JVL timed it. It ended up being 98 minutes of promos. 98.
There's that one SmackDown where over half of it was just Bloodline.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what I'm remembering. It was there was a 98-minute promo because the match in there doesn't count because it was like, yeah, it's Grayson Waller. That's not a match. No bell was rung. And there was like a 1-minute squash match for the women, and then there was a 10-minute something else, and it was like, that really, you got 12 minutes of wrestling on that match? What is happening?
You
Anyway.
sure told me on getting caught back up on WWE there with all these glowing reviews. There.
Yeah,
So,
you don't need to. Let me take the bullet for you. That's fine.
So, Andrew, in all honesty, I think if we were going to get back in WWE of between Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, honestly, as kooky as it is from time to time, NXT is probably the most consistent that you're going to get now.
Well, that's funny because when I was last watching WWE products, I was at the point where all I was watching was NXT.
Right.
And it was at the point where there was NXT UK, and so I was still watching that because...
May it rest in peace.
Yeah, the quality was so much better, and it had similar feels to some of the smaller promotions. They took some of the performers from some of the smaller promotions and brought them in, and there was just so many good things in there that I found entertaining, but then it inevitably just got that touch of WWE into it.
So this is, I don't know if anyone else is interested. I'm interested. I have had a conspiracy theory for about 6 months that Shawn Michaels is doing such a good job with NXT that it's almost impossible, but it almost seems ripe for some kind of coup, or let's create our own thing. Let's find a way to do this ourselves here in Jacksonville. Jacksonville, right? You're in Jacksonville? I'm crazy. Or is it Atlanta? I always forget where NXT is.
They're in Tampa.
NXT is in Orlando.
It's Orlando. I'm sorry. Sorry. Anything in that part of the country, it's the same state.
It's the Wild West.
I don't know.
I was in Tampa. I was there in Tampa during July. It was a wild time.
Oh yeah, Florida's. There's no God there. There's almost this feeling of like if Shawn wanted to break away. I know Vince won't, and Triple H is a homer, and that's his family, whatever. But there's a potential there for it to be its own thing and kind of survive on its own, like in Ohio Valley Wrestling or some of these other things like that, these territory things. It's there. It's just wound up in WWE shit.
It's definitely is, and I mean, we can kind of segue into this since we're talking about other companies. So, I had an idea for us to talk about our favorite wrestlers outside of WWE because prior to last episode, we did our favorite wrestlers in WWE.
Did we specify last time we talked, or did we just say we said WWE?
I'm gonna be completely honest. I think that was the plan.
That was what it was. Okay, so now
everything has blended together in my head. It's been a while, but it doesn't hurt. We can revisit some of this.
Top five outside WWE,
or in no particular order, if we will. And since it's just the four of us, we don't have to kind of speed things up. So, what we're gonna do for the next little bit is we're gonna talk about some of our favorites outside of WWE, men and women, in no particular order.
Yeah, make Minnie go first.
Hello?
I mean, way to go, John. Put the
Minnie can do it. Minnie's smart. Minnie's the young one. Minnie thinks faster.
Put the kid who has been on a sabbatical from this back into the hot seat. I'd love it.
I'll be honest with you. I spaced out. What are we talking about? I was reading about All In 2018.
That's. Are you catching? You're going way back. What are you trying to do right now?
I realized I just wanted to. I had to double check. I was double checking something because I want you all to remember that All In 2018 was main evented by Rey Mysterio.
Yes, that was a thing. I forgot about that because this was before AEW was a company like it is now.
That's true. Top 5 wing flavors, Minnie.
it's Buffalo all the way through. I don't know what you're.
You're gonna choose Buffalo all 5 times?
There's a barbecue on somewhere.
Mild, medium.
You gotta add the consistency later. Well, okay.
Perfect.
Since I'm fearless leader here, I guess I'll go first.
I'm okay to go first. I just need to know what the question was again because I spaced out.
So the question is outside of WWE, who are some of your favorite wrestlers, male or female? You can pick a 5, you can pick 2,
Sure.
but who are they and why?
Oh, number 1 is easily Kenny Omega. I mean, come
Sure.
on. I've made that very clear in every other previous thing. I'm a huge fan of Kenny Omega. He's awesome. He's a nerd, and I love that. And he's just a precious little one-winged angel that we need to protect.
Oh,
Get it? Yeah, yep.
I see what you did there.
Yep. Number 2, number 2, I think right now is Will Ospreay. Because to me, he's just an Australian Kenny Omega. But he's not. He's like just as dope, but different. And he's Australian, which makes it even better. Number 3, I have Orange Cassidy. Because come on, you can't hit on Orangeburg. Come on,
Orangeburg? Is that what you
Orangeburg.
said?
Yeah, because he didn't lose the belt for how long?
So before you continue, I want to bring up Orange Cassidy real quick because I don't know where this is leading, but apparently him and Hook are about to become a tag team. And if Danhausen comes back and makes that a trio, I am here for it.
That promo, their promo was, I don't know, 15 seconds. Best promo last Dynamite. Was
Them and a bag of Doritos.
it was great.
And apparently they're going to be at Grand Slam because they announced it on Rampage. Orange Cassidy, Renee, and Hook were like, hey, Hook, it's like, we should be a tag team or something. Yeah. We should have a match at Grand Slam. I'm in. Best promo.
That's how it is.
Right.
One of my favorite things was a moment where Orange Cassidy had a mic and he got attacked, drop kicked the dude, did a kip up, and went, "Word to your mother." That's like perfect. I love Orange Cassidy. He's just great. That's number 3. Number 4, this one's technically cheating because he was a WWE guy, but he didn't start in WWE. Bryan Danielson. Just
I think that's not cheating. I think he's more of an indie guy than a company guy.
At this point, yeah, his career's getting ready to wind down because his kid's getting ready to get a little bit older. So this will be I think this last full year of consistent wrestling. So watch him while you can. Great dude. And this one I actually might be considered cheating because currently he wrestles for WWE, but I'm gonna go with his old school name, Kevin Steen, or affectionately as Kevin Owens.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was just freaking a wrecking ball in CZW, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, and Ring of Honor. And I kind of have him tied with Samoa Joe, because I also freaking love Samoa Joe. But yeah, those are my top 5 outside. There's not a lot of women there because I don't watch a lot of women's wrestling.
We need to change that immediately.
Come on, man.
When I was watching a lot of when I was grew up, before I took the break that I took, a lot of the women's wrestling I was watching was bra and panty matches.
Sure.
That's very fair. That was a dark age.
If you want to watch good women's wrestling, it was hopefully Trish Stratus and Lita are on. Other than that, it was hey, look, I got tits. That was the extent of women's wrestling back then, so I didn't really get into it. Now it's definitely a lot better because everybody knows I'm a huge fan of Mommy, for more reason than one. But she's a great wrestler. Congratulations, Buddy Matthews. No, I'm gonna stop there. But yeah,
Dude will fold you in half.
it's fine. I deserve some of the shit that I've said about this podcast.
You're not bad. You're not that bad.
It could be a lot worse.
I just said Vince should just die already. What do you mean?
You weren't rolling. Were we rolling by that
No,
point?
we were. That was during my intro.
Well, then, that's evidence. That's your fault.
But to be fair, I feel like that's a sentiment that a lot of people are
I'm just the one that said
feeling.
it.
Everyone's thinking it. I'm just the one that said it.
I'm the one that said it
You
out.
are our Gen Zer, and nobody can really get mad at you. You're the baby of this family, so technically no one can really stay mad at you.
98 Gen Z?
That is an excellent question. You know what?
You're Gen Z, right? When you were born 30 minutes ago, right?
Oh,
You're not even listening to me. That's
I
how I
am
know.
listening
That's
to
how I
you.
know you're Gen Z. You hear me talking, you're gone.
I am
He's on
Gen Z.
Instagram somewhere.
I was looking at when Gen Z started. I did hear you. I said you were born 30 minutes ago. And I said close enough. It feels like I was built 30,000 years ago because my body hurts all the
I
time.
know you're broken. You've been through some shit.
Football and wrestling, if I'm correct.
Football,
Oh.
wrestling, weightlifting.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about weightlifting.
And getting beat up by teenagers at your job. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah,
that's
that
really
hasn't happened in a while, thank God. Well, almost did happen a couple days ago, but I threw a kid across the room because they were fighting. But
That's fine. Like that's the job.
yeah, but yeah, I work with really crazy kids, Andrew. It's a time.
It's hard to be a librarian out there now.
This is great. This is fantastic.
I
Oh, this.
Amazing.
told y'all, Andrew's funnier than me.
I wish JBL was here to hear this too.
See, I don't know if I'm ready to put these two and JBL in the same room together.
Oh no, we get nothing done.
Oh, not yet. And I'm there just for a ride. Yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm here to listen. Like, if you want me to say something, yeah, I'm not going to be able to because they're going to be too busy, throwing jabs at each other all day.
Oh yeah, it's funny though.
There with a big bag of popcorn.
Top five, not WWE. And are we sticking AEW like Mini did, or can we go anywhere and everywhere we want to be?
Anywhere, and if you want to break it up between men and women, you can as well.
If I had top five non WWE, it's hard because Tony Khan kind of snatched a lot of the really great talent as of recently. It's for me, it's definitely Will Ospreay's on that list because Will Ospreay the last 6 months of doing my homework on Will has just been, oh my god, this dude's incredible, and sort of actively not pursuing WWE. Like I don't want that. That's not what I am. I have the Australian circuit. I have Japan. I have the UK. Like I don't need that. Sort of following the Kenny Omega blueprint, and I would definitely have Kenny Omega up there as well. I'm I know I say this on the podcast enough. I don't need to keep beating it to a pulp, but MJF is amazing to me right now. Uh, Fantastic wrestler. I love Adam Cole as a wrestler. I think Adam Cole is probably the best working professional wrestler out of all of them. But when I look at those three compared to just personality and promo and what's going on, like those are the three that jump out to me right away. I don't want to cheat my list
Because
either
he's better than you.
because he's way better than me. Better hair, better all the things. I'm still on. If I'm going top five, I'm going to make room for the women. I definitely love Chris Statlander and what she's doing. Statlander. Um, every time I watch, it's like, oh my god, you're incredible. Why don't I see you more? That number five for that, I wish I saw more of him, and I don't know enough. And it's again, like Minnie said, I could throw Samoa Joe in there and feel confident too. I really like Keith Lee. I want to see more Keith Lee stuff. Really want to. Ever since the few matches I saw, and then you all told me, "Hey, go to NXT, watch him do crazy shit," and be like, "Oh my god, you are incredible," and was still doing it. And we haven't seen him in maybe 3 or 4 months or so. He had kind of a swerve thing, almost a thing with Swerve, and then they had the trios match with Orange and Darby, and then haven't seen him since. I don't know where Keith Lee disappeared to. But.
So, good news. He is back on television. He's been back on the last 2 weeks.
On what?
And it's, well, he's been doing promos. And of course, Keith Lee is a big anime nerd. So he's been wearing like the One Piece Luffy Gear 5 hoodie. And I'm like, yes.
On Collusion or something? What's he been on?
Technically, he's been on Collision. And check out my review on Collision that I did. But it seems that he's going to be going up against his old tag team partner from Ring of Honor, Shane Taylor. So that.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
I'm excited.
Great. Those are the five that jump out to me as of today. I'm sure if you asked me tomorrow, I'd be like, oh well, yeah. But right now, that's kind of where my head is. I wish I wish I saw more cool lucha shit because I want to put more lucha stuff in my brain and in my life and on my list. And I think Penta's been matched up poorly the last few matches Penta's had, so it hasn't shown off the way it is. And then Phoenix has been great, but we're still hoping see Phoenix more. Where'd Vikingo go? Did Vikingo get hurt? Like I haven't seen Vikingo in a long time.
No, he's been around. The last time I saw him was actually in his match against Kenny Omega at Triple Mania in Mexico.
Okay. So those are all just names, but those are my 5 more people I want to
Okay.
see.
Let me see. So I'll go next. I'm gonna make this quick because I tend to ramble on this podcast.
Do you?
Yeah, especially if I get really passionate. So in no particular order for the men, from NXT, I have to go with my boys, Wesley
I thought
and my.
NXT's WWE, right?
Oh, that's right. Never
It's
mind.
WWE, Mikey.
Never mind. I take that back. But
I thought I was cheating with playing 17 there.
well, to be fair, Wes did technically come from Impact, but you're right. Okay. In no particular order from Impact Wrestling, I have to go with obviously Josh Alexander, one of my current. Obviously, there's a reason why he is the face for the men's division in Impact. I also I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna put a tag team on here. I also have to go with the Motor City Machine Guns as one of my favorite teams.
Oh, sure.
Hot take, I think that they are better than FTR, but I need a match between those two to prove it. I think I made Andrew mad.
What'd you do?
Sorry,
For me-
that's my 2 cents.
But this is what this podcast for. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great. Let's see. In AEW, I gotta Swerve is my man. I love Swerve so much.
Swerve's really cool.
I think his athleticism in the ring, the moment between where he jumped off the steps and kicked Darby across the head in their match a couple weeks ago prior to their coffin match was a thing of beauty. And just Swerve is so good on the mic too.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also kind of spitting some truth, especially a couple weeks ago where he called out Hangman and said, if I was in your shoes, I'd be the first black AEW champion. And I was like, that's part of the promo, but that's also kind of true.
That was, I don't want to say mean because I don't mean like that was mean. Mean like, oh, just.
There's truth behind
it. I'm going to put this out there and call you out, Hangman.
I'm excited for their match at Wrestle Dream.
Yeah.
I hope Swerve wins. I love Hangman, but I feel like Swerve is better at winning this. Let's see. Going from Ring of Honor. I got to go with my man Katsuyori Shibata right now. I love Shibata. I've been a big fan of Shibata. And I know this is kind of a cheat pick because everyone does, but man, Okada from New Japan it's Okada. Like, I mean, come on. Do I wish he not win all these big tournaments that give him championship matches? Of course. But I mean, it's Okada. Honorary mention, Will, I think, is one of my favorites, especially over the last year and a half. That match between him and Orange Cassidy still lives rent-free in my head.
Oh,
that
yeah.
match was beautiful from Forbidden Door. And Will versus Kenny from this year's Forbidden Door was a thing of beauty as well. Though it went on a little too long, but that's just me. Now, women.
Here we go.
This one's tougher because
get out your popcorn, fellas. This is going to be a long one.
And also in no particular order from Impact Wrestling, I got to go with my girls, Jordan Grace, and a newly acquired to Impact and your current Knockouts champion, Trinity, because I love me Trinity. She and Mercedes did an amazing thing by walking out of WWE after the women's tag division wasn't getting booked properly. Honorary mention in that same vein, Mercedes Moné is killing it in New Japan. I'm still hoping that we get her versus Saraya at some point when she's healed up. And let's see, in AEW, because it's really hard because Tony Khan's not doing any of the women justice. Chris, obviously, right now is still killing it. I'm happy to see her back. And of course, I got to go with my girl, Tony Storm. I love Tony so much. And then outside of those two companies, Stardom, you can't go wrong with Julia. Julia is one of my all-time favorite New Japan women right now. And of course, she's currently the New Japan Strong Women's Champion, so that's a bonus. But yeah, those are my picks for the men and women outside of WWE. and this is where Andrew reads me for filth because I said that FTR is not as good as the Motor City Machine
Go
Gun.
get him, Andrew. Go get him, Andrew.
No, it's not. It's not that. I mean, they're super different style. It's funny because I just was getting caught up on AEW, and so I just saw the most recent FTR match, and it just watching them. My favorite division in all of professional wrestling is tag team wrestling. It always has been.
Yes.
So, like, you're talking about like how they haven't booked the women's tag team division, never did really well, or still haven't.
Still not. Yeah,
I
still bad.
Yeah, I think WWE has for as long as they've been WWE, at least they have always had trouble with booking tag team and booking women. So you put those together, and it's just not going to go well for them. And they have seemed to love more and more this random, like, let's take these two single people and put them together as a tag team and make them the top tag team. And FTR has it. They're just what they're supposed to be. They're that representation of like the classic tag team wrestlers, like the Midnight Express, the Four Horsemen, Arn Anderson, and oh my god, I don't know if I his name.
Oh, Arn and Dean at
Uh,
one point, and
no, no,
all
no,
those folks were in
Tully Blanchard, was it
there.
Tully Blanchard?
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
So just those classic tag teams, and so I was watching FTR recently and just realized like that. I think they might be my favorite tag team right now. They're just at what they do. They're so good at it, and they're so good with every other style of tag team. Lucha Bros. Oh, they were wrestling Iron Savages, formerly Bear Country,
Let's go.
and it was excuse me, it was such a good match between like these two this Haas tag team and this just like classic tag team, and they just did such a good job. So it was funny that you brought up Motor City Machine Guns in regards to them, because while we were talking about it, I was like, well, I'm going to cheat a little and say two of my favorites right now are probably FTR. I've just loved, I enjoyed them when they were the revival in WWE. And I was so happy when they got to come over to AEW because they were just not getting used well. And they were just like, you had the epitome of a tag team right there, and you just treated them like trash. And I think there's so many other great tag teams out there. Watching Impact and ROH, I think it's like there's just such a good variety out there. I have I wasn't sure about him at first, but Joya, like that that got stuck in my head today so long.
Oh
Uh,
my,
so
yes.
good, so good. But that's exactly like that's what I love about like professional wrestling right there. Is like that kind of stuff with the serious stuff with the crazy spots, all that kind of you mix it all together, and that's what makes it so great. So I think my two of my top up there definitely have to be FTR. Adam Cole is probably one of my favorites right now. I've been a big fan of him for a while. I think my favorite wrestler of all time, since he was one half of the Rockers, was Shawn Michaels, all the way through DX and all that stuff. And Adam Cole is just like the new generation of Shawn Michaels with even more. Like it's just there's just that quality about him that he just clicked with me instantly, and so I've just been enjoying it, and him with MJF is phenomenal.
It's so good. I talk about it all the time on
Let me
Dynamite.
tell you, the whole summer with
Oh.
that buddy cop movie.
Sorry, you forgot the joke.
Listen, for those of you, for the like three of you that watch the Impact reviews, one of my favorite things is Joya's entrance, because they literally took the meme of their entrance. Can I get a Joya?
Oh, it's so funny.
It's so great.
The,
Sorry, continue.
no, the moment with Santino Morello when he's asking him for it and he's going off on it, it's so good. I was so happy to see that Santino is on Impact.
Right?
Like,
Oh my gosh, he's killing it in Impact.
so good, so good. He's such a good comedic performer. Like it's phenomenal. So yeah, I mean those three are definitely my top three: Adam Cole, FTR. Um, if we're mixing in the women and the non AEW or non WWE stuff, uh, one of the ones that I always think of, and I want to see more from them, is Max the Impaler. Recently became the NWA Women's
Yes, I love
Champion.
Max.
I've been following Max for a while. I found them on social media. Was like super interested because they were this, they're a monster wrestler, like what a monster wrestler should be, and just I've loved all the work that Max does, and I would love to see Max show up in any of these other promotions. Awesome that they have the NWA Championship right now. Definitely got to put Max up there because I think if you bring Max into any company, you've got a legit monster right there for whoever your face champion is to go against. I think Max is definitely in the top for me. Um, Rounding it out, I mean, it's hard. There's so many good people out there. Like it's hard to differentiate, like to separate from who I think are the best versus who I think are my favorite. Um, but definitely like Orange Cassidy won me over with his international title run. I think the work that he did, especially being a heavy comedic like performance, it like how much the crowd buys into what he does is awesome. It's so much fun to watch, and like you legit feel for the guy when he puts himself through all that kind of stuff. It's crazy, but I'm here for it. So I'm looking forward to seeing like. I mean, he's got to be in the title world title run at some point too. It's just
Wait, that's
he's
what we
got.
were just talking about that last week. Like Orange Cassidy absolutely needs to be because dude's due for that. Also
Yeah.
needs time off because defended the title every week for like a year, and then had all these crazy ass matches in between, and
Ornberg.
is obviously injured, covered in K tape, like all that stuff, and it's tough because you want him out there, but I'm also like, hey, why don't you take a month or two to just breathe and like heal a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's some awesome people out there. Like I said before, like all the different organizations that are out there
Mm-hmm.
now. Like
Yeah.
so much talent, and I've been loving being able to catch up on Impact and Ring of Honor with the women's wrestling there too, because it's just so much variety, and they actually focus on it. So it's been pretty dope, and I hope AEW had some time where they were really good. One of my other top favorites is Garshida. Loved her in the beginning of AEW and what they were doing with her. Caught some of her stuff in Makai in Japan, and just like the buzzsaw nature of a bit of that Tajiri, Great Muda, that classic Japanese style with modern theatrical flair, and uh, I'm interested to see if they're going to do anything with her and Britt after the end of that four-way match to determine the number one contender.
Yeah.
Because right now it just kind of seems like it's the Outcasts wrestling for the world title between each other.
And it's a weird. We talked about that on Dynamite. Like, where are you going? And the Brit angle between the two of them. Like, you always mess this up. No, you always mess this up. Well, you're not working together. You're not a tag team. Like, you're in these 3-on-1, 4-on-1 free for all matches. I'm not sure if they know where they're going to go with those. But yeah, I agree. Good picks.
Seriously. So now let's move on to something a little bit tougher.
The Vince McMahon conspiracy? The Vince McMahon conspiracies. Can we talk Vince McMahon conspiracies?
Well, I guess we could do a pit stop, but I want y'all to start. I want y'all to start thinking too, because we're gonna talk about some of your favorite matches,
Oh,
and they could
Jesus.
be
Of all time,
it could
forever.
be all time, it could be current,
Oh,
like
man.
whatever. Like, what are some of the matches that have stick with you for whatever reason? But let's go. Let's make a pit stop to the Vince McMahon conspiracy theory corner real
It
quick.
doesn't have to be a long. I mean, I wish this was a corner. I wish we had a segment every week of John doing Vince McMahon conspiracies. I don't hate that. I don't know if we had started rolling it or not, but there's this big thing out there where they're talking about what is the actual influence of Vince McMahon right now. And with this grand jury investigation, and all of a sudden Vince is going in for surgery. I guess something similar happened 20 years ago. Vince McMahon was getting indicted on some federal charge of some other thing investigation, and then he went in for like some kind of brain surgery thing and had to take time off. So it seems like uh, these medical emergencies seem to show up when Vince is being investigated or when turmoil is happening within the company, and it's happening right now. Uh, Lewis brought up a good point too when we're talking about it. Without Vince on the headset, Michael Cole is a very different announcer. Without Vince just pumping him full of "here's what's happening, here's this, here's this, here's this." Not really better or worse, but very different, present in a very different way. And the three-headed monster that is SmackDown and Raw right now, which is kind of sort of not working, and I'm not sure why they're doing it, is besides the point. Um, Triple H seems like he's trying to steer the ship with creative in a way. They still don't know how to book the women. They still don't know how to book tag teams. Andrew's absolutely right. Uh, what is Vince's influence right now? Is it still Vince and Pritchard and what's his name? I can't remember. Like, is it still them pulling the strings? Is it more the board? Is it sort of the wrestlers just doing this pecking order thing? Excuse me. Like what?
You're talking
What?
about Kevin Dunn.
Done. Thank you. Done. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I couldn't remember the guy's name. I saw a meme with him the other day. That's why the teeth are standing up. Dunn, Pritchard, McMahon. Say what?
I said they do.
They do. Yeah. um. So I don't know. What is the influence of Vince McMahon right now? Is it there? Is it not there at all? Are we just lying in wait, or is it just a shit show? Because NXT is the only thing that's really working.
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay.
Damn it, John. Why do you make me think like this?
They call me the professor. I give you test questions here.
God damn.
This is in the
Uh,
form of essay or
I-
verbal discourse.
I am hoping that there's a lot of influence from Vince right now, so they can explain why everything's been so fucking terrible.
That's fair. I mean, if Vince is on spinal tap medication, just talking into his phone and then they go do it, that would make sense.
I would think that would be the case or something, because Vince is a fucking madman. Um, but I just hope, because that year and a half that we got with like Vince being completely out of the picture was fantastic.
Oh my god, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping that this is just like, because Papa H kind of knows what he's doing a little bit. It's not like he's been doing this, for his entire fucking life, but you know. So I'm hoping this is, we're getting the three-headed Cerberus of the WWE fucking with things, and that's why everything's been so fucky lately.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping, with this merger, that they actually truly can keep Big Papa Vince out of everything.
I wonder with the merger if they're going to, I think we'll see things over the next few months to the year between both companies, UFC and WWE,
Mm-hmm.
that will feel the impact of this. But I feel like there's going to be more change from WWE, and I feel like the more that they can, do without, I think they know there's a time limit on Vince. I feel like they're going to get the product, they're going to get it, set up how they want to, and they're going to eventually have somebody else that can do it. Hopefully, it's someone like Triple H. But I mean, Vince has got to have an expiration date on him. Both.
I mean, you would think evil does live forever, though. I mean, it is kind of
I,
he does look like he's 94,000 years old, like Minnie pointed out earlier.
the things that I've been seeing, and I'm like kind of hoping this one, because it helps with me with my schedule, is like one of the things I saw that could be potentially a plan is they're gonna move the pay-per-view dates for WWE to Sundays, so they can do UFC events on Saturdays. Um,
Hmm.
because a lot of the major UFC events like are Saturday based, and so
Mhm.
WWE or the Premium Live events for WWE are also Saturdays. They might move WWE to Sunday, keep UFC on Saturday. But my biggest concern is are they going to mess with WWE's deal with Peacock?
Mm.
if they're
That's
going
you and
to
I talked about that once. Yeah,
if they're
I
just
wonder
going
what.
to you have to buy the pay per view like UFC does, they're gonna have to go through something else, or they're gonna make just let WWE kind of still do their thing with their with Peacock and or they're gonna try to fully bring the network back into the United States.
Well, I don't know.
Uh,
That's why I'm curious about the structure. Is Endeavor just we're at the top of the pyramid? Do what you've been doing. We're going to take our cut now, or are they going to renegotiate the Peacock contract, the USA and Fox contract?
I hope they do so that we can watch all WWE wrestling on one spot because I have to go through like to watch SmackDown I have to go through Hulu to watch Raw I have to go through this and in order to
Sure.
watch a live event I have to go through Peacock and then like I've already my grievances have been said on the Raw reviews like when I watch through I'm gonna say it, Hulu they cut stuff
Mm.
there's
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
would watch on Hulu and then I'll be like, I didn't see that match, and I'll go back. The match was just cut.
Yeah.
There's like two or three matches and a couple backstage segments that they were just cut.
Well, I mean, it's still super TV and kid and family friendly, right? Like when blood shows up, they try to cut away when they can, except for Kevin Owens, who made them show the blood. So good job, Kevin Owens, the other day. Uh, or even The Rock the other night, where he got half the crowd going, "You are an asshole" to a Austin Theory.
And that was not bleeped out when I watched it live. It was
And
great.
I watched it not live, and it sounds awful, and you know what they're doing, and it's hysterical. And
You can also catch one of those at the God I forgot the NXT event we went to at
oh,
Stand and deliver.
Deliver.
sure.
I got a holy shit chant to go.
It
Yeah,
was
all the
The
holy
Johnny
shit
Gargano
chants and
match.
stuff.
Yeah, I
So
started, so yeah.
I think it's really funny that it's that Endeavor is in charge, and the UFC, which is unfiltered, and they swear, and it's bloody, and it's gross, and it's violent. But then it goes to WWE, and it's like, whoa, 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 you can't do that here. Don't. That's not the same.
I want them to let those changes if we're gonna get more Attitude Era level violence back.
I mean, it's on the table. I don't know. Did any of you have WWE Network when that was the big thing?
Yeah.
yes, I loved it,
You
and
loved it.
I was upset that the United States decided you guys don't need it. I'm like, the rest of the world still has it. Why can't we have it? Like,
It makes it so much easier. Everything is right there. You can watch Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and all the live events on one thing. So you're having to go 4 different streaming services to watch all the
Sure.
WWE content.
Because I never had it. I knew someone who did, and they were a wrestling nerd, and they loved it. Like they lived and died by that channel, like all the time. I was like, "Is there enough stuff on here to watch?" And then, sure enough, it's like, "Yeah, I can watch this all day." It's like, oh,
Well, because didn't they also show? They showed a couple other promotions, like the one in England that they worked with.
yeah.
They had people there.
They had
Yeah.
they had one or two other promotions, and then I want to say one became NXT UK. I can't quite remember.
NXT UK was its thing. And I like the WWE network because, like, if you missed the live show, literally next day it was already on there. It's like,
Sure.
cool, I'm gonna watch this. Now on Peacock and the rest of these
Well,
services, I
and
have to wait like at least a week.
Mick Foley had a talk show, right? Like there was a Mick Foley thing, and then
They had a bunch of originals. They're showing. I think Stone Cold's podcast, the Broken Skulls podcast, was
Was
on.
on that network too.
it was Show Classic. They
Behind the
ne-
scenes, you can
was a-
watch like any pay per view that they have ever done.
and it was something like Saturday nights was classic reruns, so it was sort of like they would just show stuff 80s, 90s, whatever.
But, like the only thing you couldn't find was anything to do with Chris Benoit. That was about
Yeah.
it.
He never
I mean,
happened.
I feel like there's a strong chance, and obviously this all comes down to money. You know, if Endeavor and TKO or through TKO feel like they can make the money that they're looking for by keeping these other agreements, they'll probably stay with it. But I mean, with the way things are with streaming services and all that, I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually just come out with like TKO Plus or something, and you
Yeah.
can watch all your UFC, WWE, all that stuff in the same spot, and you might have to pay for parts of it, maybe pay extra for the pay per views and all that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like eventually they'll want to do something because they're going to streamline, like you were saying, they're going to try and build those weekends of events so people coming into the cities have options to see both events. People watching over the weekend can watch pay-per-views. um, they can use the similar setups for a lot of the events, a lot of the technical stuff that they need for both shows. They can probably piggyback on each other. So I feel like there's going to be more and more merger over time.
But we have to. I think we have to wait till the end of the years. I think most of the WWE stuff is already planned out.
Sure.
I don't think they're going to allow them to be doing a lot of the change. And the same with UFC. UFC has a lot of their where the locations for their big live for their big pay per view shows already planned out. I think throughout the year. So I think we have to. I think it's going to be probably the next couple months. We're going to be still seeing a lot of the same things. Probably I think post Mania is when we're going to be starting seeing a lot of
So so maybe
changes.
a year from now we'll definitely have things differently.
It's going to be way different. I think by a year
Yeah,
from now
I
for
believe
sure.
that.
Because
Yeah.
I don't hate the idea of it being consolidated. It's just what drives me crazy, and Andrew will understand because him and I are older than you two. There was a time where cable TV was this sort of pay for what you have to pay a bunch of money for the channel. Like you have to go and get the channel from downtown and they'll give you the thing, or you have to pay for these or those subscriptions, whatever. And then all of a sudden that changed in the late 90s and early 2000s where it just exploded. Here's thousands of channels, here's whatever you want. And now we've kind of come back to this consolidating it into this app versus this thing versus that thing, paying for them individually again. It's the same hustle that was happening 20, 30 years ago. So I mean, I pay for 2 or 3 streaming service things right now. I it, and maybe that's just the culture we're in right now. Like if they've got to price it right and they need to not screw people over who've been getting this bundled in with Peacock and Hulu and everything else. Because if it's something like $20 a month, I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I mean, I really have to think about it. The only reason I would do it is for the podcast. Like, it would squeeze me out otherwise. You know what I mean? Like money wise, it's like, hey, you better finesse this, or else you're gonna lose a lot of.
make it like $12 a month. Get rid of your Hulu, or like if you have Hulu and Peacock, you can just cancel those subscriptions and we'll count it towards this one.
And not when you have AEW lying in wait. Like, go ahead, put it all on an app,
Listen.
pull it on the streaming thing, and Tony Khan
Listen.
sit there
I'm
and go,
surprised
hey,
AEW hasn't like shot something like that yet, or are they on TNT?
oh AEW,
Yeah, Mikey froze. That's funny.
oh Mikey froze, Mikey you froze. It's okay.
Like I'm surprised. Like in order to watch any of the AEW stuff, you have to get like Bleacher. I'm surprised they haven't done anything
Sure,
with
for
like
the Raven thing, I don't know if that's a third party thing or why they chose that.
I don't know. Like I'm surprised they haven't done because I think they still have that indie feel.
Yeah, which
But I'm
works for them,
surprised.
and
Yeah,
it's
I'm
I mean,
because it's so different.
surprised they haven't done anything with Peacock or Hulu or even like Fox Sports or well they
Yeah,
can't do Fox WWE's with them, but like any other major like streaming they can
make it
even do.
make it exclusive, right? Like
Yeah, like
make that the money pot.
shit,
Yeah,
make a deal with Netflix.
well, yeah, because it's whoever's associated with TNT, TBS, like whatever streaming service would run
Yeah,
that. Will get
they
with
got
it.
to do something with them so they can get because it's difficult to get AEW pay per views unless you buy the fucking pay per view.
right. We've
That's
talked
what
about that here. Yeah.
Yeah,
I just watch the shows because we have cable still, so that's like one of the only things that we still watch on there, or that I still watch on there, is those 3 shows. And yeah, to watch the pay per view, you got to buy it. So,
yeah, that's how it is with my parents. They still have cable. It's always why I can sometimes catch NXT occasionally if I want to watch NXT. I don't watch a lot of AEW because I'm at work normally when those shows are on. But yeah,
Wait,
that
that's why AEW is smart because they do so much on YouTube. They do so much outside of that just so that
like
it's always accessible. Maybe not the pay per views. I understand that. Um, but that was the thing that made me nervous. It was when Vince came out of retirement to make this deal. It was sort of I got that early WWE Network vibe where it was sort of like, oh, you're either going to isolate all these wrestlers or make them pay for this channel and sort of force the hand of the consumer.
mhm.
And sometimes that backfires.
Yeah, it can be really
Sometimes it's
but
people are sheep and they're like, I'll buy it, I'll pay for it, I don't care. But on the flip side, I think with wrestling, you particularly right now, you run the risk of, oh well, then I'll just go watch AEW. Fine, I'll just go find something else. Yeah. Hey, Mikey's back. Mikey was back.
nope, it's still there.
it's still there. I don't know if you can hear us. Can you hear us?
Hey,
Blink, blink if they're holding you hostage.
Oh, that seems good. Yeah, they like
mini step, man.
He's typing. He's typing, guys.
never know.
We'll find out next time on Bi-Conics GT.
Next time when we're back in 4 months.
I've been harping on Mikey
I
to get
cannot
this.
see or hear you. Let me troubleshoot. Okay, we'll keep going.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll keep. Well,
Yeah, I mean, I will say the fact that the fact that other promotions, like, you can see stuff from all these other promotions,
Right.
even some of the small ones, they're showing up on, like Access and Bleacher Report and
Yeah.
places you can watch all these indie shows and everything. Um, the options for being able to watch wrestling are so much greater right now that it, like, I have more wrestling than I can watch and not have to watch WWE at all.
Yeah. You and I talked about that early on when we started watching wrestling again a few years back. Where it's like it's everywhere, and I don't
yes.
have to watch WWE.
Like, I don't have to hide the fact that I watch wrestling anymore. It's like, you watch wrestling? I'm like, fuck yeah, I do.
You
Like,
used to
that's
hide. You used to be a closet
Oh,
wrestling fan.
dude, it used to be like, you watch wrestling? What are you, a fucking nerd? You know it's fake, right? Hey, you know that's fake? Hey, you're fake, you stupid.
See,
You know it's fake?
those are the people that don't understand what wrestling is, right? Because
I'm
it's
like,
like
yeah, you want me to take your shirt off? Let me chop you. Show you how
exactly
fake it is.
chops are real.
Want to take a chair shot? I'm show you how fake it is.
Well, because also there's this echo. Not to sound old, but like I've been doing all the wrestling history stuff. It echoes like old regional '60s, '70s, and '80s TV, right? If you watched wrestling way back then, yeah, you only got on the state TV channels, Ohio State
Yeah,
or
you got regional.
Texas, Florida,
Yeah.
like those things.
Yeah, you got like either NWA or small regional thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're from Northern California, it was KUTV, KICU, and all these other random channels that would just show indie promotions every now and then that were happening in that territory.
If you
So
were going to watch it at the, like, fairgrounds or something.
yeah, exactly. And you knew those names because they would come around and they would tour. It was that Carney thing that we're talking about. So uh, I don't. It's kind of interesting that it's echoing itself. Not quite the same, but echoes it, in my opinion. Um, but again, like what as long as Vince is there as this omnipresent sort of Damocles, like never letting the shoe drop, I don't know what's going to happen. So that was my conspiracy theory, my thought.
Yeah, I just hope that with TKO and everything like that, they tell Vince, stay the fuck away from creative. That's not your job.
Sure.
Now Vince has a boss. He's not the boss.
Well, like I wish, and I understand because Triple H and Stephanie have kids, but I wish Stephanie was there to vouch for the women and book the women because she knew how
She
to
did a
do
great
it.
job. Yeah, when
She-
Rebels, yeah, she did a great job.
So it's
I
a
just-
shame.
I just wonder, it'll be interesting to see where their leadership will go because, you bring in UFC and in some ways, you've got Dana White, whose personality is
Fucking nuts. I love Dana
lines
White.
up
Who's
with Vince
A
McMahon.
lot like
very-
Vince McMahon. Exactly.
Yeah, but
And-
I like Dana. I don't like Vince.
And so there's just these, hopefully they're buying them and seeing the money that these companies are making and will just do the things to improve on them instead of just continuing what some of these leaders have done in the past, especially when all the fans, a lot of the people that work for the companies are saying the same things. Like you just hope that you can, like, it's time to move on from at least that branch of the McMahons and move into something a little better.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you've been watching ONE FC because Dana's so good at making the UFC happen. So I don't think Mikey can hear us yet. Can you hear us, Mikey?
He said he's back.
Yes,
You're
I'm
back.
back.
Hey, welcome back. We've been rambling for a while.
You just
It's-
want an excuse to not listen to all that.
We went full conspiracy theory, and Mikey was like, "I'm out of here, bitch." Yeah.
I'm gonna be completely honest, and we can.
technical
we-
difficulties.
Yeah, I had a power surge, so I temporarily lost power.
Oh,
for
you're talking
a
about
hot-
Vince McMahon. I gotta go.
Power
I think-
surge.
I think Vince heard us talk shit, and he struck my house. He randomly picked. He struck my house.
We discovered this. Bring Andrew up to speed, and for those of you who've been listening, you know the story already. JVL was talking a bunch of crazy shit about Tony Khan, and a lightning bolt hit his neighborhood shut down his house and the power and everything. So for about 3 weeks, we were like, by the way, Tony Khan can change the weather. Like, don't talk ill of Tony Khan. He's going to send a lightning bolt to your house.
Yeah, apparently.
So, and I guess,
Dude, speaking of, does Andrew know about Little Vince?
I think Andrew's heard of Little Vince, yeah.
Heard of Little Vince?
Little
Little
Vince.
bit.
Goldberg. We had a tradition here where Vince's dick was booking matches,
Oh yeah.
and every time now and then, Little Vince would show up as a voice and just talk about matches Little Vince wanted to see. I have an idea. Yeah,
Omos versus Goldberg.
Give me Omos and Goldberg. Book it. Let's go. Shut up, you. Yeah. But it's
We haven't heard of Little Vince in like 6 months.
we haven't heard from Little Vince because
He's been dealing with back pain.
Allegedly.
little Vince threw his back out. So I have been carrying the weight of the world. Yeah, and Adolfo, I haven't had Adolfo, who is Vince Senior, going, yeah, good job.
Adolfo, when you watch this, bro, you need to hurry up and come back.
Adolfo got gigs. Adolfo got work.
I know.
I think he's back, what, next week?
Adolfo
I think so.
booked
I hope
shows.
so.
And then I start directing next week, so I'll try and be here when I can.
You guys.
Sorry, Mikey.
I'm having lives outside of the wrestling podcast. Jesus
How
Christ.
dare
Join our Patreon
As-
so we can make
as-
this our job.
As I just say, as I was gone for 2 weeks because I was watching football.
So that's the end of my conspiracy theory rant. Good luck editing that thing together. What else did you want to touch on? What do you want to talk about?
My favorite
Well, I'm
matches.
going to keep this in. I'm hoping that it saved everything we got beforehand. If not, we'll figure
It
it
says it's recording on my end. It's still going.
out. Okay, then we're golden, hopefully.
Yeah, it's still
Favorite- Doing favorite matches now? Is that the thing?
Oh, matches.
Yeah.
You want favorite matches?
Oh, you guys should read our. If you guys should see our chat, it is hilarious.
If you're not reading the chat, you're only getting half the story.
So are you saying all time matches? Like your matches,
Well,
like
It could be all time. It could be some of your favorite current ones because, or ones that have left an impact on you, and it could be a positive
All
or a negative.
I can start that. I can say right now at the top of my list, which kind of bumped out other matches. I'm pretty sure. Is that Adam Cole MJF 30-minute draw was
Ooh, the first time.
that first draw was like out of
Oh,
nowhere.
it was beautiful.
And what makes it special to me is the storylines after that and kind of how they ran with that. Like that's textbook how I think modern wrestling should be doing this. But it was just so clean and so good out of nowhere, and there was storytelling, and you could tell that they were really working snug and hitting each other hard. Taking that line from Lewis because I like it. I thought that was a great match. I definitely, because it's probably recency bias with that Will Ospreay Kenny Omega Forbidden Door match that we had talked about. That's still ridiculous and stands out to me as I've seen all these clips of Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay looks really good, and then seeing that match, like, oh, I thought I knew nothing. Y'all are incredible. To go back to the matches that jump out to me, I did not see this because I couldn't afford pay-per-views as a kid. So I saw this. I think I rented this from a DVD/video store. Was the Undertaker Mankind Hell in a Cell? He's killed him. Oh my God, match, and you just see how well they work together. I appreciate it more now, obviously, because at the time it was just the spectacle of the thing. Like, oh my God, this is happening. But now watching it, like, oh damn, those are two folks going for it. This one is one that I always go back to. I don't know why. I think because I remember seeing it and it was still really great. Was Razor Ramon and X-Pac /123 Kid. This story arc that Vince McMahon had never done before, and everyone went, "You're crazy. There's no way this is going to work," and it did because X-Pac, whose real name I forget, was up and coming, and everybody loved him in the training grounds. Razor Ramon really liked him in the trainings and the rehearsals of things, and he got his shot. He jobbed a few times, and then kind of got let go and didn't hear anything for a few months, and then Vince called him on the phone, and he answered and he said, "Hey, I have this idea. I want you to be ringside. Razor Ramon's going to pick on some people and challenge someone. He's going to challenge you, and you're going to beat him. And then on the rematch a week later, you're going to get a full spot." And that happened. And I remember watching that, and I was a kid, but it it was a work on me. I believed it completely. Like, oh my god, this person from the audience just beat the hell out of Razor Ramon. This is amazing. Um, so that's one of the first like real wrestling arc matches that I remember. So that one stands out for me, big time. After that, oh, there's a few tag matches that come to mind for me. I really enjoyed. I can give you four right now if you give me some time to think of a fifth because I want to do my equity because I want to get. I know there's a women's match or two in there that I'm thinking of. I really enjoyed, and I went back and rewatched it. The Trish Becky Lynch match from the
That steel cage match
that
was
match
so
was
good.
wild. I haven't seen a steel cage match.
Steel Mage match.
Wow, steel mage! Put two wizards in the cage. I haven't seen that in a while. I haven't seen that done well in a long while. So that was super one that I really, enjoyed. But those are four. And that Trish Becky one is kind of an auxiliary, but I can get you one more if I really have time to think about it.
Nice.
Go mini go.
Okay, so one of my another really good match that I really enjoyed was Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett versus Ric Flair and Andrade El Idolo. That's Ric Flair's last match. That is still a joke. This is an ongoing
I was
joke.
like, wait, what?
Nope, that is an ongoing joke.
That was about he is fired from the podcast.
No, that is just an ongoing joke.
The
I'm
best
just
I
saying.
mean, it is
The-
it is entertaining if you want to see somebody almost die.
The best part of that match is watching how disappointed Bret Hart and Mick Foley and Undertaker, everyone is ringside like, this is it, Rick. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, that's just been an ongoing joke since like the original Bi-Conics podcast from the original of this iteration of the Bi-Conics podcast. No, recently, one of my favorite matches I've seen probably recently, and I'm actually gonna throw a women's match out there, even though I said I don't watch a lot of women's matches. Actually, Rhea versus Charlotte for the women's championship at WrestleMania Night One. That
Sure.
should have been the main event, in my opinion.
Absolutely should.
If it wasn't for the Bloodline. Um, Another one that's been another really recent one for me, Ilya Dragunov versus Wes Lee.
Yes.
I freaking love Ilya Dragunov.
That's a good call.
These are just a couple like recent. I'm just thinking of some recent matches that has been like stuck with me like in the like past little bit. Actually, the 5-way for the North American Championship at Stand and Deliver. Another phenomenal match. You guys can check that one out. Wesley, Dragunov, Ilya Dragunov. Who else was in it?
Let's see that fatal 5-way. It was Wes, Ilya, JD McDonough,
Dragon,
Axiom,
Dragon Lee.
and Dragon Lee.
Another great match. Saw that one live in person. It was dope. All time, that's tough. Purely this one is gonna. Some of these are just because it represents some of my favorite wrestlers. You guys know my all-time favorite wrestler is Rey Mysterio. So of course, Rey Mysterio versus Kurt Angle versus Randy Orton.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That one's gonna be up there for me. Watching Rey win. God, what year was it? WrestleMania, not WrestleMania. The Royal Rumble. I think it was 2019 when Edge returned after being gone from his neck. Because just watching, him come back, even though as a kid I hated him because what kid didn't like John Cena during the John Cena times.
Fair.
So I was like, screw Edge. He's eating me. But now I was like, I fucking love Edge. And hearing his theme song in person at WrestleMania was incredible. Trying to think another, of course. Another one. I think, in my opinion, a match that I think truly changed modern day wrestling and set everything up to where it is now. Even though it may not have been a 5-star classic, Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. I think that match is what set the tone for AEW and all these stuff to start happening. I feel like that match signifies the change of what we're happening now. It is what started that a big name WWE guy can leave and do things. Because it's Chris Jericho, and he left and wrestled in New Japan and started. I think that's what I think kind of what started everything for AEW. Even though it was really kind of all in 2018 that Cody Rhodes pushed, but I think Chris Jericho was what he's the one that opened that door. I think
Mm-hmm.
like, everything that started everything for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what introduced me to Kenny Omega. So thank you, Chris.
I made the mistake of looking at Google. There are so many good matches out there when you start
Yeah.
going down this rabbit hole. Like
Oh yeah,
it's
it was impossible. There's like I haven't even started talking about like Kurt Angle or anything
yeah,
like
it's
that.
like you kind of have to be subjective in the sense of like what are your five?
I can't name five. I'll just name stuff that come off the top of my head that I saw recently.
Yeah. So
It's funny you bring up Kurt Angle because before we started the podcast, I was thinking of favorite wrestlers, and I was trying to separate between favorite and best. And it's like the more I watch about Kurt Angle and like what other wrestlers say about him, how
yeah.
he performed, like seeing all that kind of stuff, I'm like, God, I think Kurt Angle might be one of the greatest like in wrestling like ever. Like
Can you name a better 2 years than the 2 years of Perk Angle?
Did you anyone watch the doc on him? Like the interview and the documentary for him?
I saw it on TikTok.
Apparently, it's really good. Like
it's
clears up a lot of the controversies and like I mean, no one is a saint. I get that, but like drug and alcohol addiction and some of the stuff he was going through, and when you read the tabloid of it, you're like, oh my god, what a horrible person. But really, it's not quite what you heard. Um,
Well, like, I mean, you talk about putting your body through, some craziness, like what happened to him
His
just over the
broken
years.
freaking neck that he broke 14 times.
Yeah,
Jesus.
it's and just like what he did in WWE, then when he went to TNA Impact and did all the stuff there, and just like, yeah, it's crazy. And still, like the way that he performed with other people was insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Go, Andrew, go.
All right. And I think I'm suffering from the same recency bias too.
I think
'Cause
that it's okay though, because we're kind of on the spot. So this is the stuff that
Um,
just comes up to
yeah.
you.
So definitely, I think there have been some incredible matches recently. I mean, I think was it the technically best match? Probably not, but that bullwhip match or strap match with Brian
Oh yeah,
Oh
and
my god.
dude.
The fact that they did that match with him coming that fast back after breaking an arm, it like what they did with that match was
Yeah.
amazing.
I
So,
rewatched that because I was busy at the time and then got sick. That match is like the one of the more visceral. Oh my god, I'm feeling this through the screen type of
yeah.
matches I've seen in a long time.
So that was pretty awesome. The what was it? Omega Takeshita match.
Mm-hmm.
That was at All Out.
Yeah.
That was an amazing match too. Uh, it's really been like kind of crazy to see Takeshita kind of come how the transition that he's made through AEW and what he's doing now has been pretty awesome. Uh, some of the older matches that I was thinking of were the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa unsanctioned
Mm-hmm.
match was like, dude, they went there, and I think that was one of the big matches that definitely made me a huge fan of Britt Baker. It's the heels are always it's I see people like MJF and Samoa Joe a lot of the times, and I'm like, I want to hate them so much, and then I realize like, nope, that's exactly what I'm supposed to
That's
do.
what you.
They're doing
That's
something.
when they're doing their job.
So I was a little slow for Britt Baker, but watching her what she's done, and awesome to her too to do all of that, and be a doctor. It's pretty
Exactly.
awesome. Pretty
Exactly.
cool. Um, that was a dope match. Trying to think back, some of the classic matches, like one of the ones I had to look it up so I could remember, but the Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, ECW match.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Like, I mean, you talk about some of the best, and I know all the like history of Chris Benoit and everything like that. But when you're talking about in the ring, the things that people could do, the Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, like those three were,
Yeah.
I mean, such fire in the ring.
Have you
With,
seen the really early CM Punk Rey Mysterio without the mask and Eddie Guerrero trios match? That match is crazy as well. It's like in some dining hall somewhere, and you're like, "What is
the
this?" Sorry, that was just for my
babyface Mysterio.
yeah. Babyface like looks like he's 17. Like, what is this? Anyway, sorry.
No, that's good. Those are, I think those are my matches. Those are the ones that stuck out a lot for me.
Well, what's hard is like because you go down that rabbit hole, and all of a sudden you're like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Brett and Owen did a steel cage match. Oh, that's right. Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon did a steel cage match, or did a ladder match. Excuse me.
Match. Yeah.
And you hear like some of these big classic, like, oh yeah, that happened. The Rock and Stone Cold, those three WrestleManias in the 2000s. Like, oh yeah, of course. The original Bret Hart, Stone Cold, no rules, whatever. Well, no holds barred. Go fight in the parking lot match that lasted like 45 minutes. I don't think that was Canada. That was someplace else. Like all these,
The
when you really think,
Lesnar Angle match.
sure, yeah,
Just come
yeah,
back from that botch and
uh
still.
huh.
Oh,
Or you
God.
look at some of those. I mean, you could go to the Terry Funk, Dusty Rhodes. Let's just kill each other early in life matches from the '80s. You know, there's so many things out there when you really think about it.
We haven't even started talking about like old like. There's some Bruno Sammartino matches that are
Mm.
phenomenal. There's some, uh, God, I'm tired and spacing on names, but there's some old matches out there also that's just like, damn, like these dudes. And we haven't even talked about somebody like Ricky the Steamboat Dragon,
Oh, God.
any of his matches.
We didn't talk about Macho Man. We didn't talk about
We didn't talk about
we
Macho
had
Man,
recency bias because
right?
we have a 40, 50, 60 year history of wrestling to think about.
Right, like we were just talking about modern stuff, but we haven't even gotten to like even like some of the like we talked briefly about old ECW. Like we haven't even talking about like Samoa
Mhm.
Joe, AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels triple threat match, old school TNA when they had the Aqua.
Woof. Good knowledge.
Sabu and Sandman.
Mm-hmm.
Rey Mysterio
Ooh, you
versus
just got
versus Sabu.
All the images going through Mikey's head is
Well, and then there were the like. I mean, I remember, things like talking about tag team wrestling. It's like all the matches with teams like Demolition, Road Warriors,
yeah.
Powers of Pain,
Mm-hmm.
Strike Force. Like, I mean, just so many classics out
So,
there, and
so
I'm
many like
sure I'm just
Well, and
forgetting
then
some.
in the late '80s, where like you said, when they would just pair random people up and make them a tag team, but it seemed like in the late '80s, everyone was trained in that anyway. So there was some of these tag teams that came out that were like Sting and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Like that's a crazy ass tag team, the two of them in their late '80s peak. Uh, I'm trying to think. Macho Man tagged with a few other folks. Were there some these wild ass
yeah,
tag matches?
there was like as much as we like to hate on it, but the superpowers,
Mega
Macho
Powers.
Man and Hulk Hogan, Mega Powers, my bad,
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan and Macho Man,
Sure,
they even had a couple decent matches.
it's a good storyline.
There
I mean,
was
Miss Elizabeth right in the middle of it. Yeah.
I mean, there was even stuff with like Vader. Vader had some phenomenal matches for his big size.
Yeah.
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Dude.
There's
Fucking
some
A.
like some guys we just didn't talk about that's had some just insanely good. It's so hard to quantify
This
top five
is this
matches.
is sad, and I don't mean to
There's
bring it
so
up this
many.
way, but thinking like this, you realize, wow, they all made it to like 45 and passed away. They lived that hard ass life and then just
Painkillers.
checked out. They were gone. Whatever they were taking to keep themselves
They
functional.
keep him going because Bam Bam was doing insane stuff at his size too. He
Mm-hmm.
was
Oh, he
he
was
was a
6'8",
freak,
6'7". Dude was massive.
Well,
huge.
and they didn't have, nearly any of the precautions that they have now, nor
No,
did they take care of
Oh,
themselves
they,
for
they,
their
they didn't
performance.
care. They said you
Yeah,
performing. If you want to
yeah.
make money, you got to perform.
yeah. I mean, I
Do
don't
what
think
you got
they.
to do.
I don't think. I'm sure they have some kind of insurance or medical something now because they're too big of a company, even though they're independent contractors. But their brands matter to the point where they have to come back. Uh, But yeah, the longevity and the amount of matches, which makes you respect folks like Bruno Sammartino, who did that for 30, 40 years. Bret
Just
Hart, who was a, you know,
until
25 years until Goldberg got him right in the
Goldberg.
head.
Yeah, that
Um,
even some people are like Jeff Jarrett.
Fucking Jeff Jarrett's still going.
Still
Sting,
going.
even though
King,
Sting might want to.
Iffy at sometimes.
Billy Gunn.
Billy Gunn.
Billy
That's the other thing
Gunn's
too. Billy
still
Gunn's still
going.
good. Yeah,
The
there's some people.
Hardy Boys, even though every time they get in the ring, we're like, please don't burst in the
I feel
dust.
I feel like Jeff's gonna break his back at any minute. And the same thing
Any
with Darby
minute.
Allin. But still,
Matt looks like his hips are just fused. I
they're
mean,
gone.
They are. He's
Yeah.
a Tin Man, but he's every time he's going in there trying to sell whatever he can.
Yeah, but there's still some dudes, and there's. I mean, Shawn Michaels is putting on 5-star classes when he was like almost 50. He was like his match with the Undertaker.
Yeah.
He was like 43 years old.
Mm-hmm.
and that was after having all the injuries that he's had that
Yeah.
took him out for a time. Like, I mean,
His first match returning in the Elimination Chamber against Triple H.
Which match turned his eye? I can't remember which match is the match that messed his eye up.
Sean?
Yeah,
I think I don't know which one messes I up. I know it was a casket match that messed his back up.
that I remember hearing.
yeah,
I can't remember
I don't
which
know which
one.
one messes my up. There's also a match where Vader's eye popped out of his socket and he had to pop it back in the middle of a match.
And
Mhm.
if you watch the match on YouTube, you see him do it.
Yeah, him. There's also there's stories all the time. Is Mick Foley having his rear damn near ripped off because of the ropes. He get tangled in the ropes.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, it's the cauliflower. Just
yeah, there. I mean, there's a clip of Seth almost getting impaled by the steel ring by the steel cage when it came down. I'm not sure you guys ever saw that.
I mean, there's the classic Sid Vicious.
Leg break.
Break.
Yeah, I mean, we
Dude.
watched one of those recently at the Ring of Honor event right before Mania.
What? You saw it?
Yeah, we watched it. We didn't go to the
Oh,
event. We
was
watched
that
it
the
live on
Canadian
Facebook.
Canadian
The
Destroyer?
off
Into the
ladder.
tables
Oh,
that made
oh.
Dante Martin, like we saw Dante Martin's ankle like
still have-
spin in directions
Boom!
that it didn't
That
need
was
to.
fucking
I
gross.
still have that video. Yeah, I have it. Yeah, but like
Poor
it's-
Top Flight. Poor Top Flight.
It always hurts. It's funny.
Good.
Mikey was just explaining to me how these guys are so good, but they're always
Here it is.
hurt, and then immediately watch him break his leg.
And so in 2004, Shawn Michaels had a lazy eye over time from injuries that he had taken to his face. In 2008, Shawn was in a feud with Chris Jericho, and in one of the more notable segments, Michael was thrown into a flat screen TV, which Jericho claimed caused the lazy eye, but no one said that was true. So the injury was actually done a lot earlier. So he's kind of talking about like he's always had it, but obviously taking shots to the head over time kind of made it worse.
But yeah, we haven't even
Dang.
talked about a lot of Shawn Michaels matches. I mean, like you barely mentioned the Razor Ramon, Shawn
See,
Michaels.
so Mikey, what we got to do is we got to pick a wrestler and talk about their matches for an hour and a half. That's what we got to do.
Apparently, yeah.
Honestly, I'm here for it.
Like pick someone and do a deep dive, and then show up in a few weeks, and then be like, "Here's this match, that match, this thing, that."
we can do that can be a whole like you guys are hearing the birth of ideas here. That could be a whole video series we can do. Just film videos on like our favorite matches from this. Like we just go back to our videos of some
Content.
of our favorite wrestlers that we did from the last podcast from the 1900s that we did.
I mean, as long as we don't go full rabbit hole and we're like our greatest indie matches from 1983.
No,
like I don't want to go.
We find our favorite wrestlers. Like we have our lists, right?
Yeah,
And we just do videos about our favorite wrestlers and some of our favorite matches from said wrestlers.
there you go. It's perfect.
I think that's perfect. Yeah, and because like it is too hard to quantify favorite matches because it's just like, oh, there's so many that we can talk about there.
Well, like we said, there was the recency bias for some of them because it's like that's what I remember, and then for other ones, it's the nostalgia of oh yeah, that was my favorite match when I think about this moment and this person.
Yeah, and
this
there's
thing.
then there's big historic matches like King of the Ring. I think it was King of the Ring 97, 98 when Stone Cold won it. And
Sure.
Austin
My-
316.
I mean, Montreal Screwjob, like
Montreal
all these iconic moments in WWE history type stuff.
Halloween Havoc, Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero.
Jerry Lawler, Andy Kaufman, which was a thing back in 1979, 1980. Like that that made wrestling
Warren Taylor
mainstream.
versus Bam Bam Bigelow, WrestleMania 5?
There you go. Yeah. The Godfather and not having to wrestle for a year and a half because he would just offer you hose. Like, yeah, like I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, that's a good gimmick. That was a good gimmick.
It was a great gimmick. Shamrock,
Now you couldn't go
Big
by now.
Boss Man. Oh, I'm trying to think of who went in for it. I think Jeff Jarrett did at one point. It was sort of like, "What do you want?" And they always took the hose.
The $1 million man, he would come out and offer people money, like kiss my foot and get paid.
$1 Million Man, like man, we could talk about. We got
Speaking of
Rick
random,
Rude, Rick Rude bringing in ladies from the audience.
yeah,
Oh
dude,
my god.
see, like
the greatest inside joke of WWE history finally had its record broken with the Honky Tonk Man getting his IC title.
yes.
The
That's-
Honky Tonk Man, the Elvis impersonator, had the longest intercontinental title.
Because the Honky Tonk, he only wrestled once every 6 months, and he would just hit you with the guitar. Like he didn't wrestle at that point. That was the funny thing.
It finally got broken with the man, the myth, the legend Gunther with the hardest chops I've ever heard.
Which
God, those
I'm-
chops.
I caught up on some of the SmackDown. I would love to see LA Knight Gunther right now. LA Knight Gunther would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think that would be amazing.
LA Knight.
God, I hope LA Knight is at this super house show this upcoming weekend.
If he did, how close are you to the ring?
Not that close because I'm poor. Like
I don't know. Send me pictures.
There's a house show in San Francisco in a week and a half. I have 2 friends trying to buy tickets right now, and I'm like, I don't have any money.
I heard
I bought. Yeah, go ahead.
I heard about a couple coming out to Arizona. I just forgot the dates.
So the WWE house show is this upcoming Saturday. I bought those tickets in July, and I think last week, after I finally got confirmation from my friend Uriel. Hey Uriel, if you watch this,
So
hi.
you're going.
Me and Uriel are gonna go to Full Gear at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles.
What? Nice.
Sweet.
I'm excited. This is my first AEW pay-per-view live, and honestly, I'm happy about it.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm definitely gonna be taking pictures and videos and have a mini vlog for everybody.
We didn't tell Andrew about a random experience at Stand and Deliver with Sol Ruka's parents.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'll get to that story in a little bit, but keeping on topic. So really quickly, in no particular order, my matches.
Oh yeah, we need to hear from you because your stuff cut out. We haven't talked
Yeah,
about stuff.
all your shit died.
I'm sorry, Mikey.
It's fine. So really quickly, some recency bias, like some within the last 2 or 3 years, the ones that stand out to me, definitely from this year, Swerve versus Darby
Sure.
from a random episode of Dynamite.
Sure.
That match was great. And again, because I try to watch everything. Mercedes versus Mayu Iwatani for the IWGP Women's Championship was amazing. Again, that fatal 5-way for the North American Championship and NXT Stand and Deliver still sticks in my head. Athena versus Willow at Death Before Dishonor this year. My God, that is the woman match of the year for me.
You keep talking about that. I haven't watched it yet.
Please go watch it. It is fantastic. Randomly, Great Muta versus Shinsuke Nakamura was really good too
Yeah.
from earlier this year
Yeah.
in Muta's retirement match.
Mhm.
And randomly, listen, I love Will versus Kenny at Wrestle Kingdom, but the match that kind of stole it for me was that fatal 4-way for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. So Taiji Ishimori, Hiromu Takahashi, who still has the greatest wrestling gear entrance of all times, and you can fight me on that. For El Desperado and Master Wato, like that was such a strange match. I was like, I actually thought this was a lot of fun. And then some other matches that got said, like Britt versus Thunder and that Lights Out match. I was like, listen, this is the standard I want to see women's wrestling. Like they can be violent if they want to.
Oh,
That
yeah.
match was great. I still hold Lucha Brothers versus the Young Bucks in the Steel Cage match from All Out 2021 as one of my favorites.
Mhm.
Like to me, that's one of my favorite recent. I can't really pick one, but the Briscoes versus FTR trilogy from last year was baller.
I remember that. That was one of the first things I watched working on.
I think the dog collar match is probably my favorite
Dog collar-
of the trilogy.
is
The
ripped.
double dog collar match.
That's the one I remember watching. Like, oh
I was
my
like,
god.
I didn't know how they were going to top the last two matches, and then they did.
I gotta go do dad stuff soon.
Okay,
But
we'll
I'm
wrap it up. real
I'm
quick.
happy I'm happy this worked out. I'm glad we finally had a Bi-Conics for the first time in 3 months.
Seriously. And then if I have to pull in the past, I guess the one that sticks with me, the triple threat at Armageddon 2008, Jeff Hardy, Triple H,
Yeah.
Edge. That match sticks with me only because even though everything that happened afterwards kind of ruined it for me because Jeff couldn't stay out of trouble, but that was to me that match is important to me in history because that everything leading into that match and having Jeff having to rebuild himself after Scandal previously and having to be, because of his issues, that and when he finally won that after what was to me one of my favorite builds of that year, and for him to finally get the title against in a match against Triple H and Edge was one that stuck to me, and I was like, this is truly the underdog story. And then Jeff fucked it up weeks later when he got in trouble again.
We got to find out on this Zencaster if we could stream a thing and watch and react to it, because that would be a great one to watch and talk about.
That would probably be a good thing.
That might be really cool. That might be great.
Well,
pulling and picking matches, and then like all four of us can sit here and watch and talk and be like, "What do you see? What do you notice? What do you this?"
right.
But,
well, gentlemen, I think this was a really fun episode.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was
Yeah.
awesome to get to join.
For sure.
I'm really happy to have Andrew on Bi-Conics and reviewing stuff. I'm excited to see his opinions on all the stuff I'm not watching, but I should be watching. So I'm excited to hear that stuff.
Just catch the highlights. I guess I'll do the outro. So thank you so much for tuning into another great episode of the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast. Hopefully Zencaster will be nice to me and it caught everything.
You're
but
fine.
We'll
You should be fine.
I mean, the last half hour is still some pretty good stuff. But if you like what we do, make sure to follow us on the YouTube channels here where we have this. We review all the TV shows and pay-per-views. Thank you for not having another pay-per-view schedule from hell, wrestling companies. Please don't do it again for a little bit of time. You can follow us. Exactly. You can follow us. You can follow us all over the social medias at BC WrestlePod. We're everywhere. We're literally pimping ourselves out here, so it's fine. We're all over the social medias. We have no shame. And then, of course, you can find the audio versions of this podcast all over where podcasts can be found: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music for some reason.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, we're on.
All right.
We made our way to Amazon Music, you guys. It is great.
The promised land.
The promised land. We made it. But until the next episode, thank you for tuning in. And as always, be Bi-Conic. We'll see you later.